It was noontime today in the center of Beijing when a man walked to the middle of the Avenue of Eternal Peace.
Well, all right. Welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast, Kevin and Chuck. Today, we're going to talk about kind of homemade weapons, maybe some prison weapons, and we're going to talk about a little bit about assassinations. One of the big things, I think people feel threatened when people come for the guns and they take away the guns. And somehow all these strict regimes that do that kind of thing, you end up with assassination attempts and people coming up with creative ways to kind of get back at the man. And that's one of the things with banning weapons is always that you wonder, are they people are going to find a way, right? Like China, they have a lot of knife attacks. They don't have guns, but you have people who, they just go
Go on
and get
stabbing
people
spree.
with machetes or, and this stuff. I mean, you could take a piece of angle iron and a grinder and have a knife in short order. It's not like a hard thing. In prisons, people have been making shivs and different things. So it's definitely a common occurrence, and I think we see them pop up when people become desperate. And I don't know, there are just a lot of interesting things, and one of the things that brought it to mind was over this last week here, we had the United Health CEO was assassinated in New York City. And Kevin, I have to point out, in New York City, most people are not allowed to have a gun.
Or a suppressor.
People have often said that New York City might be an oppressive kind of state and where they try and control things a little bit. I've heard that they want to limit how much soda you can get at McDonald's.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact.
I mean, you could just buy two, but
But I think that the real problem here is there is some kind of a mix-up because apparently this guy didn't know that you weren't allowed to have handguns
or
in New York City.
suppressors in New York State.
Yeah, so I guess he was kind of confused. Maybe he'll turn himself in now that he realized
I guess.
that.
Yeah. Well, when he hears the podcast,
Mhm.
he's going to be like, oh, shit. I was good shooting the guy, but I didn't realize I was breaking a law when I went to, right.
Mhm. And I watched a bunch of nerds talk about this event that took place. And they kept saying shit like gangbanger and stuff
Ooh.
like that.
Did you get the feel it was a gangbanger?
I did not get that impression at all.
That wasn't the vibe?
No.
Now, I guess I didn't mention right in the very beginning, his weapon looked a little questionable and kind of got me and Kevin on this homemade weapon track because it looked like there's a good chance this might be a homemade weapon.
Mhm.
But I don't know. We'll see. We're gonna kind of check it out and talk about it. But Kevin, what are the details? Like, what are people saying?
All right.
Who
So
shot who, and did they arrest him? Is he in jail?
yeah. So Brian Thompson was going to a meeting. Brian Thompson is the CEO of United Healthcare. He was going to a meeting. He left his hotel at 6:45 in the morning, walked across the street to go into the office building, and before he went inside, that's where it took place.
Okay.
So he was shot in the back, and the right calf is at least twice, but we don't know if there's. I'm not clear. It looked like he shot 3 times. Maybe he missed 1 time.
Okay.
The shooter arrived 5 minutes before Thompson did.
Okay.
Now they're offering a $10,000 reward for him turning him. Now remember, I always
you're
say
a
this, they
CEO,
never
I feel
pay
like-
that money. They're not. If you turn this guy in, you're not going to get the $10,000. But the $10,000, that's 3% of Brian Thompson's biweekly paycheck.
Bi-weekly.
3% of his 2 weeks' pay. So it's not like anyone's really after this. It doesn't seem like they really give a shit. Like they're just moving on. They're moving somebody else up to CEO and they're on with business. They don't give a shit about this guy one bit.
It doesn't sound that way. He sounds like he's as replaceable as I might be at my current place of employment.
Right. Now, why did they shoot him? So, I mean, it's all only speculation now. I mean, they haven't captured the guy yet, at least when we're recording this podcast. They did find something carved into the shell casings that he left behind. Now,
Right.
things they said he's a gangbanger and a professional would pick up the shell casings. But if you were leaving a message on the shell casings, obviously you're not gonna pick it up.
Right. They obviously didn't find fingerprints on it, or they'd be like, oh, that's Jimmy.
They'd know who it was by now, right? So he wasn't wearing gloves when he had the gun, but that doesn't really mean anything because he didn't touch anything other than the gun,
Right.
you know.
And he brought the gun with him
And he
to
brought the
take
gun
it.
with him, and
Probably
yeah,
threw it in the Hudson.
that could
Where
be
other
anywhere
good
at this
things
point.
are.
Yeah.
Right.
So what the shell casings said were deny, defend, depose.
Oh, I feel like he maybe watched a lot of V for Vendetta.
Well, I will say that tracks. It's part of a title of a book.
Oh, oh.
So the full title of the book is Deny, Defend, Depose: Why Insurance Companies Don't Pay Claims and What You Can Do About It.
Oh, that does sound like that tracks.
Now, United Healthcare is famous because they deny the average insurance company denies between 5 and 10% of claims made.
All right.
United Healthcare makes a lot of money because they deny 34% of the claims.
Yeah, but
filed.
they're not at the level of the VA, who probably denies what, 90% of claims. See what I did there?
Yep. Now, the same day that he was shot, another health insurance company came out, Blue Cross Blue Shield.
And they said, hey, we're going to start approving some shit.
No.
Oh.
Well, they did, but what they did was they came out with a statement saying that any anesthesia, any surgery that goes longer than expected, that extra anesthesia isn't covered. So if your surgeon takes a little bit longer and you start waking up while they got your insides opened up, apparently, I don't know, they just give you a stick to bite on or something. I don't know what the plan is, but
Now,
that's what they were saying.
How do they get that? Like, hey, are we okay to proceed? Are you going to pay for this?
I don't know. I don't know what they do, but Kathy Hochul, that's the governor of New York right now.
Okay.
She's like, nah, that's not happening in New York State. Like, wherever you want to do it, it ain't happening here. And then I think word got out of this guy getting shot in the back, and they're like, wait a minute, nope, never mind. We were just joking about that. So they by the end of the day, they're like, no, we're not doing that anymore.
The board decided it, and then the CEO was like, you know what? I'm thinking, no.
This might be a bad idea.
All right. So I actually have a video. Let's check it out, and we can kind of see what happened here. Now, the thing with that is, so this is what got us all on the homemade weapon thing, is he appears when he's shooting to either be like, I don't know if you guys have seen zip guns, but they usually have like a little charging handle and where you kind of rack it back. And that's kind of how it looks that this guy is taking it to go and do it, because he's like pulling it back. Now, here's the thing. I've actually used suppressed weapons and suppressed handguns. And when you use suppressed weapons, the big thing is you want to use subsonic ammo.
Right.
And the thing is, with subsonic ammo, it just has a little bit less gunpowder, makes it not go quite as fast. The thing is with subsonic ammo is your gun is set up for the proper amount of gunpowder, right?
Right.
So when you have the proper amount of gunpowder, it pulls the slide back far enough that it resets. It ejects the round and it resets everything. When you use subsonic ammo, it has less propulsion, right? Comes back not quite as far, and it doesn't. Because thing is, you set up a gun perfectly to work with the ammo that you use, because otherwise you get like a jerking and it kind of pulls you off for your next shot and that kind of thing. They don't want it overcharged kind of thing so that it kind of jerks you around. So that's why you kind of tune everything properly. And so that's one theory, is that this guy is using subsonic ammo to use with the suppressor. Also, the suppressor changes the back pressure that comes through the gun and again can affect it. But the combination of the two, I've actually used subsonic ammo in a handgun and had it not charged. Now I was able to set the gun up to work with that, but that's not always it's something you have to take action and do, and it's a big deal.
Now, if you're
how
firing
yeah.
subsonic ammo through a pistol with a suppressor, is that significantly less noise than an unsuppressed
Yes.
weapon without subsonic?
Yes. So I absolutely, if I was on your front porch with the front door closed and I was shooting subsonic ammo with a suppressor and you were sitting on the couch in the house, you probably wouldn't hear it.
Mhm.
That's about what I got. Now, if you were outside with me and you were sitting on the porch reading a book, you would hear it all day long.
Mhm.
That's about what I could give you on that. I think you're in the 25 to 30 decibel range.
Mhm.
I know that doesn't mean a lot to people, but it just, yeah, that's what I got on that. So that's one scenario of why he had to keep doing that. So, you would just then cycle the action, you'd pull the top half of the gun back and it would reset. And that could be what he's doing and why this guy had to keep shooting. On the flip side of that, a homemade zip gun is usually meant to, now they do have them with like magazines that'll keep feeding with a spring sometimes. And what they do is they have to keep resetting it by pulling back the charging handle. It just ends up, the whole process of resetting a gun, it takes some mechanical effort. And a zip gun, the whole kind of point of that is to be simple and easy. Now they have those zip gun machine guns they used to do back in the day that were pretty slick, that did all that. So I mean, you can point out, well, that's this exception is totally different than what you're saying. True, I understand that. But so that's where we're at on that. So I would
They're
say
also
50-50, but I kind of think it was the subsonic ammo. But there's definitely a possibility that it's a zip gun. And my guess is if he's in New York, he probably did make the suppressor. Because if you really don't care about the rules, you can do whatever you want, turns
right.
out.
And it turns out it's not really difficult to make a suppressor.
No,
It's not like a complicated process that you need like a serious machine shop. You can do it in your basement with a couple of, with a welder and a fucking drill press, But I don't know. It did seem to me that he he was expecting the jam to happen. Like he had fired this gun before and knew that that was going to happen. Now, the British did make a handgun that is suppressed that fires subsonic ammo that does not jam.
there are.
Uh,
It definitely can be
they
done.
exist, but it's not like something that, you can find easily or inexpensively or even buy and, without a specific.
Because I've seen those movies, and
Mhm.
and it was like pew pew, right? And that.
You barely hear it.
The big thing, like people are like, "Ooh, at 22, that's hardly a bullet." Well, that's kind of it. It turns out you can kill people with a 22, and that's pretty common.
Easily. And one of the people that I
Especially
heard
with
say,
multiple shots. Yeah.
yeah, one of the people I saw, one of the fucking idiots that doesn't know what they're talking about, but they ask him questions anyway, said that you could tell it wasn't a professional hit because if
Okay.
it was, it would have been a 22 and it would have been right behind the ear and it would have just been one shot.
Yeah, Kevin,
That's the
that's
dumbest shit
right.
I ever heard in my life. That's not, yes, there have been professionals that have killed people that way, but that's not the only way that it ever happens,
Now, I actually have a joke about one shot. Um,
Mhm.
assassins. I mean, I'd be happy to share it with you. So this guy goes into a bar and he hears about this assassin, and he charges $10,000 a shot, and he goes into the bar and he's like, "Hey, man, I hear you're an assassin and you could maybe help me out." And the guy's like, he's like, "But I just have a question." He goes, "You say 10,000 a shot, but do you ever miss? I mean, is it going to cost me, more, or what's going on here?" "Nope, I never miss. It dead shot, no problem." And guy's like, "Well, this is great." He goes, "Cuz my ex-wife or my wife is cheating on me, and she's down at the hotel right now with the guy, and I'd love for you to, take care of this for me." And the guy's like, "Yeah, let's go. Let's get in the car. We'll go right over now." They drive over and go down, and they're looking through binoculars into the hotel window from across the street, and guy's like, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, I want you to shoot my wife in the head, take her out, and I want you to shoot that guy's dick off." The guy looks through and he's like, "All right, man, do it." And the guy's waiting and he's like, "Well, hold on." And the guy's like, "Well, come on, let's do it." And he's like, "No, hold on a minute." And he's like, "What?" And he goes, "Well, if you just wait 1 second, I think I can save you 10,000 bucks."
Oh, that's fucked up.
Sorry, that I've been saving that one. That was priceless. I was like, how can I work this in? And
Mhm.
there it is, just like that.
There
So
you go.
anyway, there was actually another recent attack with a definite homemade weapon, and
Mhm.
that was over in Japan.
Right.
Also very strict, gun laws, and not much going on there. And this was in 2022, so not that long ago. The
Right.
Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was
Yeah, Shinzo
assassinated.
Abe.
Shinzo Abe. I don't
Mhm.
speak Japanese, Kevin. You can't
Neither do
trick.
I, and I got a whole list of Japanese names I'm gonna have to try and sound out later on.
Oh Lord. All right. What do
So
you
here's
got?
the homemade gun here. You see it falling to the ground.
Okay. And
Um,
it looked kind of like a double barrel, like a sawed off shotgun or something, right? Is
yeah,
that
they said it was similar looking to a sawed-off shotgun.
it's kind of like a
I
pistol with two pipes to the top of it and wrapped with
Mhm.
electrical tape. It was kind of
Now the website said it was actually capable of firing 6 bullets at the same time. Now, I don't know how that works out. I don't know. I really looked for pictures of the gun, like, really looked for, like, how it was made and that sort of stuff, and really, we have almost nothing on it. It looks like there's a lot of electrical tape on it.
mm,
Like, half the gun is taped together.
yeah. No, that was the feeling I got. Um yeah, so that I mean, do we even know any deep like reason behind it? They just tired of the
Yeah.
Japanese are tired of the long work week. That's what it is, right? They were like 40-hour work week. Is that what
No, I
happened?
actually, I read about it, and, this guy,
Was just crazy.
Tetsuya Yamagami,
Sure.
that was the assassin's name.
Okay.
He, his mother was really involved in this, church, I guess you would
Mm.
say. Maybe it's a cult, I don't know, but she was really involved in it, and they had a lot of money, the family did, and she gave all of the money to the church, so
Oh.
bankrupted the family. This guy, Shinzo Abe, was like a personal friend of that church, the head of the organizations.
Okay.
So he was feeling a certain kind of way about it.
All
Didn't
right.
didn't like it. So that's why he shot him because his involvement with this church.
Now,
That wasn't
yeah.
the first former prime minister in Japan that was assassinated.
Mm.
If you look at like Japanese history, especially the last 100 years, assassination is
It's
like
not a safe job.
almost like politics and assassination is like you know,
It
they go
is.
hand but the one I'm thinking of here is the February 26th incident,
Oh.
which happened in 1932, and it was basically a coup d'état.
Oh.
So they basically they tried to take over the government and they assassinated Seatu Makoto and Takashi Korikio. I don't know. So those were both former prime ministers. Not, I would say, not a great job to have. If I was Japanese, being prime minister seems to be safe, but once you retire from being prime minister, like,
It's after the fact.
yeah, it's after the fact they get you.
Well, that's it. They probably cut down the security, not like, in America where we got you forever. But even so, your security thins out. It's not the same,
Right.
you know.
Right.
Now, one of the things you said his weapon could possibly fire 6 rounds at the same time.
Right.
There was a like a shell that you could buy for like the little grenade launchers, the 37 millimeter rocket launchers that they sell. And those are actually legal for people to buy. A lot of times you see them, you'll see like SWAT teams or something with gas canisters or riot control.
Mhm.
And they have like a riot gun that'll have like 6 canisters in like a barrel, things
Right.
like that. Or you can find single shot ones. They make one that actually mounts to the bottom of your AR-15 that you can do on there, have an extra thing. Well, they had a round called the Hornet's Nest, and this thing would hold 18 22 long rifle rounds. You could put it in there. You can still buy these, but they're expensive. They're like $425, which to me is ridiculous.
Mhm.
Um, but don't worry, there is a company that makes them for $99. Because I was like, I've seen these for like $75. What's going
Mhm.
on? And I searched it out, and it's not called the Hornet's Nest, but if you search it, you'll find it. But it was like the bee master or something,
Mhm.
whatever. But bottom line, they do make one for about $99 that does seem to be in stock now that you can do that. Basically, you load it in there and that one shoots 15 rounds at once, a 22 long rifle. So
Mhm.
that's kind of neat. Um, Another thing, so the standard basically, if you make your own gun and I guess you'd call it single action, like you have to cock it every time
Mhm.
to fire it. They call it a zip gun. And basically, if you imagine, it's basically a spring and a slide, and you pull it back, and a firing pin hits the thing. I mean, that's how a gun works. It's not
Mhm.
any new information here, but that's what a zip gun is. And then they shoot around, and people make those, and they'll make them out of like a pen in
Mhm.
prison. Now, your little plastic sleeved pen probably not going to hold up and do that. You probably just shoot your fingers off.
Mhm.
But and the thing is, you have to find a bullet. And I
Right.
feel like if I'm in prison, where am I getting these bullets? But I guess it's easier to bring in a bullet than it is to bring in a whole, you know, uh,
The whole
a
gun?
whole gun, right? I mean, that sounds right. Um,
I don't know. I feel like there's enough space in your butt
yeah, you can
for
do it.
several rounds,
Kevin,
but
they
I
do
don't
a
know if you could get
cavity
a whole
search
gun up
that when
there.
they spread those cheeks, are they gonna just start dropping
Well,
out
they say
22 rounds or
if when they ask you to squat and cough, they
yeah,
said anything that's up there is gonna come out.
that's the rule.
I've never checked people's buttholes, so I don't have any direct experience with this.
Maybe if things aren't as clean as they should be, there's a little something holding it. I don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different, ways that people have done it. I've seen one with a brake line actually, and they have just kind of a flared brake line, and apparently the 22 fits right in there with a 5/16 brake line. That's what I've seen in a movie, maybe. Um, there are different things, like I said, that they use like a bolt for, the little grab thing on a charging handle,
Mhm.
different things. Now, one of the more unique things that I've seen people come up with is they had a prison situation where they they kept having a big run on coffee, and they were like, why are we selling twice the amount of coffee, or not selling, I guess, putting out, serving twice the
Mhm.
amount of coffee as normal? We're just going through it so quickly. And because I guess maybe they make the pot and they could leave it to the next shift and then whatever.
Mhm.
And so they keep being empty, and they keep going through coffee. And what they realized was the prisoners were trying to get the coffee mate and the little powder that they have, because you have that powder coffee creamer,
Right.
and turns out that's flammable. And they actually were like, well, we're not sure that's really true. That sounds made up. They actually did it on Mythbusters. And turns out it is quite flammable. So what they were doing is actually making a flamethrower. And
out of the
I think
coffee
it
creamer.
it would work like basically like a blowgun.
Hmm.
And if you think of something like that, but having a decent amount of a coffee creamer. And when I was kind of searching it out for pictures, turns out, remember that website Instructables where they
Yeah.
tell you how to make your own bow and arrow or whatever? Turns out you can make a like coffee maker, coffee creamer flamethrower. There's a thing. We can't show you how to do that kind of thing because YouTube does not like when you show people how to make weapons, but
Mhm.
Instructables might be something you were looking at if you
Yeah,
wanted
I mean,
a homemade
honestly, anything we
flamethrower.
talk about, we have to be kind of vague on certain things, but you can look this stuff up. It's not it's not hard. We'll never tell you how to make a bomb, but it ain't difficult either.
Kevin, that's inappropriate. And I do have to point out at this point that we're not lawyers and this is not legal advice, that this show is for entertainment, that we don't want you to I would also say, since I'm pointing out things, that maybe you want to like and subscribe. Maybe
Mhm.
that's what you need to be doing. Why have you not hit the like button? Is what I'm asking. Just saying, that might be something you're into.
All right.
Um, yeah.
I got one more assassination with
Oh,
homemade weapons related.
okay.
Was an industrialist in the 1860s, 70s. He ran a steel mill
Mhm.
and decided he could make more money if he cut everybody's pay and kicked them all
That's
out of
smart.
the
I mean,
housing.
Kevin, that sounds right.
Yeah. So he was making a little bit more money, but everybody decided to strike.
Mm,
You can't have strike workers. So he
no.
hired 300 guys from the Pinkerton detective
Yeah.
agency,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Brought them all up on a ship on barges. They
Sure.
landed the barges and they just started beating the shit out of everybody. They killed 11 strikers and 5 Pinkerton guys got killed. Wasn't too crazy, but it really upset somebody. So this guy James Frisk was coming out of his office, and somebody that had been pissed off about it came up to him and shot him
Hmm.
twice.
Oh.
As far as I know, it was a handgun that was regular manufactured, but he also had a file that he had filed down into a knife.
Oh.
They were actually able to capture the guy. They put him in prison for 22 years. He got out. They were gonna deport him, and
Hmm.
during his going away party, the
Yeah.
assassin's going away party,
Yeah. Sure.
uh, they found out that guy Frisk had died.
Oh,
22 years later, wasn't related to him
he was
shooting.
this close to
Yeah, and he said,
sneaking out under the wire.
yeah, he was getting deported, but God had deported James Fisk first, so that made him feel better.
Okay. That's messed up, Kevin.
A little messed
Um,
up.
Another thing that comes to mind when you think homemade weapons, the big thing, 3/4 inch pipe is like a great size for a shotgun round.
Mm,
And I've heard rumors of people trying to rig up things like that. The big thing is you need a solid sleeve around. People talk about like the noisemakers in the woods and different things like that. And oh well, you have the they say they make them with blanks, but like I've seen even ones with like a mousetrap spring and things like that that actuate a firing pin to make noise for a shotgun round. Well, the thing is that blast, if nothing's directing it and all you have is the plastic shell that holds it,
mhm,
the ammo is just gonna kind of the bullet itself or the bullets, the little BBs, pellets, whatever, are just gonna kind of spray and fall around. And it's
right.
not even
It's not gonna
usually
get
too
directed or fire in a
aggressive,
direction.
right?
Yeah,
Because thing is, the explosion has nothing holding it to put the pressure behind the bullets. So they the explosion kind of goes anywhere. And obviously, a little force is going to be applied to the bullets, but not the directed focus that you typically get. That's why they're not as worried like when you have ammo and your house catches on fire.
Hmm.
Yes, there can be an explosion from it, but it's very rare that it's like shooting shrapnel because it's not focused. Like the explosion just kind of blows the brass apart and the bullet, yeah, it moves, but it's not much more dangerous than, the other stuff. That's one of the things I always worried about. I'm like, how do you store ammo? The firefighters are going to be like, nope, forget that house.
Yeah.
Ain't going in there. We know about Chuck. And but it's really not that bad because it's not directed. So
Hmm.
anything that you want to shoot a projectile, when they make a gun, it actually has to have like a solid barrel. And again, how long that barrel is how long that directed energy is going to be applied behind the projectile, right?
Right.
So that's what you have to think about. So that's why like a pistol is less accurate and less velocity than you get from a rifle, because you only have so much, behind it before that explodes into the air. Now, also, the longer it is, it's also going to help the noise and stuff dissipate as well. But obviously, when they make a suppressor, it has like chambers for the gas to slowly dissipate. So
Hmm.
it's not all at once, and then you're not as likely to get that crack but anyway,
So
sorry.
what you're saying is it's a safe and fun prank when you're out camping to just throw a bunch of ammo into the fire pit.
That is absolutely not what I said. Kevin, the t-shirt is just coming where Kevin will get you killed. That's not a safe prank. Um,
Okay.
haha.
All right. It's
Actually,
just checking.
I've
Jeez.
seen videos of like a soda can just really damaging people and getting from the pressure and just the little shards of aluminum
Right.
coming up and hurting people from being in a fire. It's crazy. Can
Hmm.
really wreck some people. You've seen the videos of where they throw a keg in the fire. That's not good either. I'd
No,
recommend. That's a no-go.
that's that's pretty fucking
Just
dangerous.
just putting things in a fire is usually a bad idea as a general
Anything
rule, Kevin.
pressurized in a fire.
Yeah, that's a no.
So actually, just yesterday up here,
Mm,
Hunter got himself. Um, he was climbing up with it in his tree stand with his
yes,
rifle that
yes,
was loaded, that was
yes.
cocked, like no
Yeah.
safety on. Dropped the rifle and it shot him in the arm.
Mhm, mhm.
So I mean,
That does happen, and that's the thing. Like I know, um, I don't know. When I walk back to the woods, like the minute when I'm going hunting, because all that stuff makes noise, right? And you're like sneaking into your place to shoot. And so I know that I rack around before I like it's the second either I'm on the back porch, depending how far away it is that I'm going shooting, or sometimes even inside. And
mhm,
what I've also done, just so I don't even have the noise of the door, I'll go out the front door of my house. I'll rack around on the front porch. Then, I mean, it's more I want the door noise on the
right,
front side instead of the back, not because of the racking around. But then I'll walk back to the place where I shoot, and that's probably 400 yards, maybe 600 yards from my house.
mhm,
I don't live in New York, so we don't have all
right,
kinds of crazy rules like you guys might. Um, but I kind of sneak back through and I'll rake the leaves and everything. So you're super quiet. Cause dude, every little bit, makes noise.
mhm,
And what I find is so I'll have the safety on through all this. And then I climb up and get into position in my tree stand. And then right when I kind of have it pointed down range, then I click the safety off.
mhm,
Um, and then sit there with the safety off, and
right,
that's usually how I do it. So bottom line is I can appreciate why people, could do that. And some guns just don't have safeties and things like that. But you're always taking a risk and you have to kind of be aware of what you're doing. I was actually just one of the gun sites that I follow on Facebook had a meme today about a guy who put his handgun in his glove box. And he's like, I had the safety on, but when he shut the door, it must have hit whatever and enough that he ended up shooting through the firewall and into, he's like, I don't know what I hit, but there was coolant coming everywhere. And usually what it is the coolant, the heat, your heater in your car, they call it the heater core, that uses the coolant from your engine. You're kind of getting rid of that heat in the coolant
Mm,
by having it as the heat in your, car.
right.
And, obviously it's air blowing against the coils filled with hot air or hot water, hot
Hmm.
coolant. And then, yeah, dissipates. So anyway, he's like, I don't know what could have happened. And I'm like, yeah, I think I know what could have happened. But,
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's a crazy world out there. So you do have to learn to kind of protect your things and whatever. But I just thought it was kind of neat throughout history. People have done a lot with, you know, making their own stuff. And I guess my point, what it all comes down to is people are always going to find a way, right? It
Yeah. I
really doesn't matter.
actually had a
Yeah,
conversation with a friend of mine. They're talking about like, well, I don't understand why they can't just ban all automatic weapons. Why can't they can't ban all guns? Why can't
right.
I'm like, the fucking secret's out, bro. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? You can
it
make one in
is.
your basement. It's not like a complicated thing.
Right.
A 3D printer, you could do that. Piece of pipe, a block of wood, a nail and a rubber band. I mean, it's not really
Yeah.
complicated stuff.
And that's it. And how many rounds you're shooting through it the quality that you need, but
Hmm.
it's still, like I said, a pipe kind of lines up with a bullet. What are you gonna do? It's one of those things that, obviously the quality and effectiveness are, but again, are you a precision kind of person? Do you do quality work when you're machining things? Then odds are you could probably make a pretty effective gun.
Hmm.
Obviously that would be illegal to make your own gun. Now, if you give the government $200, you can make your own gun any way you want. You just have to say, "Hey, I'm making a gun. Here it is." And I mean, just all you need to do is say, I'm going to make it this quality and this thing. If it's a handgun, I just can't really have a stock kind of thing on the back. You kind of do whatever with the barrel, presuming handguns are legal where you are. If it's a rifle, you got to have the barrel at least 16 inches. Side of that, there's not really too many rules.
Yeah.
Obviously, full auto would be a thing that would be wrong. Now, again, you can buy the proper licensing for that and do that kind of thing. I'm not sure you can make a machine gun for civilian. I don't know how that all works. You can make a machine gun because that there's a so the bottom line is you get a manufacturer license. You get approved to deal in suppressors and whatever firearms, NFA items, right? That's what they call it. If you're approved to sell NFA items and approved to manufacture NFA items, like you're allowed to make a suppressor, you can make a full auto machine gun all day long, completely legal. You can't own it without extra precautions, but you can make it and you can keep it to sell. But if you got rid of your gun manufacturing business, you would then have to sell it or turn it over. These can be sold to law enforcement, military, that kind of thing. So, I mean, there are options out there for you. I considered going down such a road so I could build machine guns. Seemed like something I might be interested in, to be able to help out law enforcement and
Right.
like that. I mean, that's always my goal. And but it turns out they want a complete list of every firearm you own. And I just wasn't sure I'd be able to find enough pieces of paper. So yeah,
To write it all down.
it
Yeah.
sounded complicated.
Yeah.
My printer's running low on ink. I just was like, this doesn't sound good. And I just was like, no, I don't think I can pull that off.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Now, if you go on Wikipedia
yeah,
and look up improvised firearms,
yes.
you can find all sorts of neat stuff people have made over the years,
Really?
automatic weapons included.
Really?
A lot of
That's
them were
shocking.
manufactured in France during World War II
The
during by
French, they're a
resistance
little
members, and they
suspicious.
had some cool stuff. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, definitely check it out. Also, I should like point this out. If you are using a piece of pipe as a barrel of a gun, there's a good chance that pipe will blow apart in your hand and take off several of your fingers.
Yeah.
Just
In
just
this
putting it out
case, thin to win doesn't always apply. It's actually the opposite of
there.
what
Mhm.
you'd want to do. Um, but again, it depends what you're dealing with. But yeah, no, all that very dangerous. I was just talking about prisoners and revolutionaries. I'm
Mhm.
not talking about the common everyday. The gun store is great. They have all kinds of cool stuff. You guys should go down there and check it out. I recommend it to all my friends. So I'm just saying. I actually go to there's a place called Perry's in Wendell, North Carolina. Very
Mhm.
nice. I know Palmetto State Armory will ship pretty much any cool thing to your local gun dealer. So you have options. So
Mhm.
with that, I would say stay safe and we will talk to you guys next week.